All right, here is a speed run of Excel superheroes. Going to be using some custom lambdas and VBA. You can download file at the link in the description. For this first one, we're just gonna look up the case number on our case database. And I think the functions one, yeah, is the first one, right? So it's just this divided by the sum of this, then rounded to 4 digits is what the instructions is asking for. All right, so now we're going to start calculating cases here. All right, so I'm going to use a let for this. So what case number is there? Player code is there. Then case stats is, look up the case number on case number here, returning this stuff. That's case stats. Gonna keep this nice and locked. I'm gonna call this case stats 2, right? Because I got to divide by the sum, right? So case stats 2 is case stats divided by the sum of case stats. It's case stats 2. Player stats, right, is now, I'm just going to look up the player code on the player table, right, which is here, right? Those are the codes and those are the statistics. All right, so then the score for the player is the case stats 2 times the player stats, right? So it's, sum product, case stats 2, and player stats times 10, and round that to the nearest integer and inlet there, hopefully. Let's see. This X lookup is missing a column. That's where the X lookup comes from, F to F, and then the numbers are in G to M. That locked. All right, there's 802, right? So that's how you figure out the basic score, at least for level 2. Now in level 3, we're going to add, the game night factor, right? So this is, pre-GNF score. Except you don't round at this point. I mean, we're just adding, so it doesn't matter. So the pre-GNF score and then the score here. Oh no, it's not. We're not adding. We're multiplying. All right. So this rounding cannot happen at this point. That's the pre-GNF score. So the score. Well, and I'll add another input here. Right. So GNF is this. And the score is the pre-GNF score times the GNF divided by 100, right? Following the example here. And then, I mean, the score is just what I want, right? So it's that's got to get rounded to the nearest integer. And that is how we do that. All right, so for this, I'm going to make a little table here. So I'll just, wrap rows 4 here to make that table. So here is the formula here, right? So the case number is here. I'm going to keep that locked. because it's the same for the whole thing, right? The player code is here, the GNF is here, and then luck we're going to have to deal with later, right? This is the pre-luck score. So I'm going to label that pre-luck score. Pre-luck score. And this should just line up like that. So now I'm going to figure out, I'm going to follow this formula to find the distance, the difference, right? So, you know, call these A and B because I don't know which one is bigger, which one is smaller. I'm going to figure that out. Think that matters? I'm not 100% sure how this works, but this way works. This way at least we'll get the right answer according to this example. So, you know, the higher one is the max of A and B. The lower one is the min of A and B. Then the formula here is the higher divided by the lower minus 1, right? So that is, yeah, that 2.16 that I'm looking for is there. So if this is, so, you know, is it close? And then what's the final score, right? So if this is less than 0.1, then yes, it's close, otherwise it's not, right? Less than, equal to, difference is less than strictly. Same thing for this. And then the final, right, is just the pre-luck score plus whether it's close or not times the luck, right? So that and that, and this is asking the winning player. So the maximum of these. All right, let's see how we're doing so far. 620, that's a decent amount of points. These are out of 2000 though, right? This is a semifinal case, I believe. Okay, now it's 4-player match. I mean, we're pretty ready for this, right? So I just wrap rows all the way out to here. The pre-luck scores can go like this, right? And then I just got to deal with these close, right? So now I'm going to make this a little array here of the pre-luck scores, and then I'll transpose it this way. And, you know, this is based on A and B. Well, I'm going to add a little check here, right? So if A equals B, then nothing. Otherwise, that, right? Because you can't be close to yourself. That doesn't count. It's only to the other players. And this, we got to do the locks. The lower row, the other column. It's usually how that works, right? So that is this, and then the close is simply, you know, if the minimum of this is strictly less than 0.1, then yes, it's close, otherwise it's not close. All right, those are our final scores. Now we want the sum of all the scores is what this question's asking for. All right, still good on our answers. Here, we're gonna, you know, expand it out to all 8 players. That's interesting. What happened there? Yep, one more. Boop. That way it makes a nice rectangle. These have to go down. This now just has got to cover the whole thing, right? The rest of it should be pretty automatic. Then this has got to check the whole thing. And that makes these our final scores. All right. Briefly saw an error there, but these are right. All right, now we have to handle eliminations. All right, so first of all, why don't we're only going to be looking at the pre-luck scores for now, because luck only comes in after the elimination. So first we got to handle the eliminations. First, I'm going to make a lookup table, right, for the places. So the places are, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So if you're in eighth place, you only get 5/30th of your score according to the instructions, right? So, and then the next player gets another 5/30th, and so on until the top three players, which we'll deal with at the end. Right, so now is the rank of this among all this, with the array being locked here. So that is the place you got. Not, I mean, the top three are still mutable because they have luck, but for the others that are getting eliminated, this is what they are going to get. There's a rounding issue here because this is now an interim calculation, so I don't round it anymore. This has got to, because I'm about to multiply it again, so before I do that, I got to leave it unrounded. This is, yeah, the proportion of the score that you get to keep, right? So this is the final score for final score pre-luck, because only the top three players get luck, right? According to the instructions. So the final score pre-luck is that times the amount of points that you lost for being eliminated, and that is rounded to the nearest whole number, right? Because even if you do add luck, you're just getting whole number points at that point. So now I've got to identify the top three scores here, right? So, first, second, and third place, probably I can just look up. I mean, I could do a sort and a take, but I'm always doing XLOOKUP, so why not just do an XLOOKUP? Right, so those are the pre-luck scores for the players who are in the final three who make it to the end of the time. I'm gonna take the rounded ones instead. Or do I not do the round ones for the 10%? No, you do the round ones before the 10%. They said that in the rules before. All right, so this is just to make the same little matrix I had before, right? So this goes out like this, with this one, it's getting transposed. Then, I'm just putting these here in the middle. Circular references, that's not allowed. That's because these references are locked and they're not supposed to be, right? So A and B are here and here. 38 has got to be locked, and then the N has got to be locked. And everything else should be good. All right, so is this close? Well, let's see. If the minimum of this is less than 0.1, then yes, it's close, otherwise it's not. Same thing for these guys. And then the luck point, right, is, I'm gonna look up this score here on or I'm gonna look up the rank, since it's not rounded, since I don't want to run into a rounding problem. All right, so I'm gonna look up the rank and find the possible luck score first of all, right? And I need to copy this, so I'm gonna lock the lookup. So luck points, that times whether it's close or not, because you only get the luck points if it's close. So that goes like this, and then the final score for everybody is the sum of everybody's pre-luck score, including the elimination stuff and the luck points that the final three got. And there's level 7. We should be ready for bonuses now. 1,500 points so far. find the easiest case in the database. How many letters are there, not counting colons and equals average of all this, not counting colons and spaces, right? So let's look at this. There's actually an error in the original case, right? It says to count the letters, but really it's the ignore spaces and colons is correct, but you have to include the not just the letters, but the apostrophes. There's 8 apostrophes and 1 ampersand, and if you don't include those, you won't get the right answer. So those get included. So instead of using my only letters lambda, I'm going to use a substitute to get rid of the letters that I don't want. And that will give me something that matches the corrected instructions, right? So substitute from here, I'm going to substitute colon and, change that to nothing. And I will also substitute the output of that, right? And substitute out the spaces, right? Replace that with nothing. And now I've got just the letters, apostrophes, and ampersands, right? So 28, 69 total, and the easiest one has 30, right? So the easiest case has 30, and the others ones have a total of 28, 69. Assign letters, A, B, etc. There, you don't count the ampersand and the apostrophe in that because they don't have numbers. So I will use my string to array on this whole thing here. And that should spell. Where are we spelling to, guys? Is there something over there? That's interesting. What if I just do one at a time? String to array of this string. All this here, yeah, no spell errors there. All right, so I start here, and then I use what? Control-Shift-End to highlight all the letters. And I'm going to create a frequency table. In my prep table, I already have a lookup that converts the letters to numbers, right? So I look up the letters here and convert them to their numbers. And then the sum product of the value of each letter and the number of letters, the number of times it appears. Whoops, ooh, dumb product. I don't want the dumb product. I want the sum product. Sum product, EDD, I mean, I don't know, what, oh, NAs. What's up with that? That's weird. I am not used to seeing that. And oh, because the ampersands and that stuff doesn't count. All right, got it. So X look up that with the other stuff counting as 0. All right, so now the sum product here is 35, 36. Highest score achieved by the 4th place player on level 5. Well, there's only 4 players, so that means that's the last place player on level 5. So that's bonus 4. So instead of the maximum or the sum, right, we're just going to take the minimum of the final scores. And the maximum of the minimum is 854. All right, finally, how many times did players score 100 points or 1,000 points or more in games 2 to 7? All right, so levels 2, I mean, I can just look at my my all games sheet here. Well, let's see. Now I'm going to look at my case sheet. All right, so nobody has over 1,000 in levels 1, 2, or level 3. It's only level 4, and there's multiple players who might make it. All right, so I'm ignoring levels 2 and 3. But starting on level 4, I want to know, count if the final score here is greater than or equal to 1,000. All right, so turn this on. I've got 4 so far. So I'm going to carry over 4 onto this. Turn on this what if table, so how much that is. Plus 4 is 12 so far. So now I've carried over 12. Bring the same formula again. Same place, yep, same place. So 12 plus all these gives me 28. So I carry over 28 to the finals here. And this is, assuming only the final 3 can get over 1,000 points. We'll see if that works. The sum of these guys with their luck scores, right? So I need their final score plus their pre-luck score plus their post-luck score is those players' final scores, right? So the count of that, right? So 28 plus all this is 59. There's Excel Superheroes in 21 minutes, 10 seconds. Thank you. Bye.